open up that Crystal Pepsi and get comfortable.
This is Dope Nostalgia.
Welcome to episode 147. We're that deep in now. 147 episodes. I'm your host, Naomi, and I'm very excited today. A good friend of mine, a very talented musician, as well as a man who has a podcast of his own that's very successful, is here on the show today, and I've been waiting for him to co-host with me, and he did a great job on this interview. Andrew Scott is here. You can check out his show, It's a Conspiracy, everywhere you can get podcasts, and I'll be running a trailer for it in the middle of the show, as I always do. Now, moving on to our special guest as well this week that both Andrew and I are talking to. His name is Christian Simpson, the drummer of Canadian rock band Glueleg. Glueleg was out touring Canada back when it was like I, Mother Earth, Our Lady Peace, Tea Party. Glueleg played with so many of those bands, and Christian's going to tell us a lot about what they've been up to lately as well. So welcome to both Andrew and Christian. Here's some details on Glueleg.
Wikipedia moment.
Please bear in mind that Wikipedia is not to be taken as actual 100% fact. Any donkey could edit it at any time. If I'm reading you the artist's bio, that stuff is real truth.
Glueleg was a Canadian alternative rock band that was formed in 1990 in Toronto, Ontario. The band released 3 albums and 1 EP before disbanding in 1998. They had several hit singles from 94 to 97 with the songs Heroic Doses, Come With Me, and Mr. Pink off their second and most successful album, Heroic Doses. Produced by James Stewart, recorded at Reaction Studios, Toronto in 1994. And with Pistons and Dragonfly off their third Sylvia Massey-produced album, Clodhopper, the band, led by Chapman stick player, songwriter, and vocalist Alonzo, and guitar player, songwriter, and vocalist Ruben, broke up in '98 with the members all going on to different projects. The band's music consisted of a hard-edged alternative art rock sound. The music prominently featured the sounds of the Chapman stick, saxophone, and trumpet arranged alongside hard rock guitar and vocal raps. A recording contract with Pure Records and Canadian and USA national record distribution through Page Publications gave the band enough exposure to support 6 national tours with opening spots for I, Mother Earth, The Tea Party, and Our Lady Peace, as well as performing with other Canadian bands of that era. In 1997, the band signed a distribution deal with EMI. The band released 3 albums and 1 EP, Angst, Park Alien, Heroic Doses, and Clodhopper, the last of which features a guest appearance by fiddle player Ashley McIsaac. Their career included various performances at Edgefest and 5 music videos that received considerable airplay in Canada. We'd like to welcome the drummer of Glueleg here to the show today. Welcome to Dope Nostalgia, Christian Simpson. Christian.
Hey guys, how are you? So it's Naomi and who else?
This is our co-host, Andrew.
Andrew, nice to meet you.
Hey Andrew, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well.
Yeah, no, Andrew's also a huge fan of the band, so I wanted him to be.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
He has a lot of great questions for you, and I'm going to get him to kick that off. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, so I am a big fan. This is really cool for me, man. I'm kind of just geeking out a little bit. I guess I got a few quick questions here, but what does the name Glueleg mean?
You start off with that one.
Yeah.
Well, the name was established before I joined the band. So the band was formed by Carlos, Ruben, and Blake. So Carlos Alonzo, Ruben Huizinga, Blake Howard. I guess they're all in high school. I don't know who came up with the name. But so anyway, when I joined the band, we had never ever had a good answer to that question. I didn't come up with the name, so I don't know. It was just 2 words that went together well, oddly.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. So yeah, I don't know. I can't answer that question.
Okay. Okay.
I'd help you. So we're off and running.
Fair enough.
Excellent.
And I'm aware of this, but like, what can you tell us? Like, what your role was in the band, like instruments and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was the drummer.
The drummer. Okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah, and that's all I did.
You were drumming. Okay.
Yeah.
Who are some of your
You want to know the other
heroes?
guys, like the lineup? Okay, so when I joined the band, it was again Ruben was the guitar player, singer, and Carlos he played an instrument called the Chapman stick, and he was also a vocalist as well. So it was a trio, and then we were in recording. It was an EP. Oh my God, I forgot the name of it. Anyway, again, I still have a little bit of brain fog.
Okay.
So we recorded this EP, and there was a track that we thought, well, this would be cool if we could put a horn section on it, a saxophone and a trumpet. And so I knew a friend from another band that I was in, and he played saxophone. So he came in, and he had a friend that played trumpet. They both came in on this session and laid down some horns on top of the guitar and this Chapman stick, and then my drum setup was a little bit out of the norm, I guess you could say. It was, at that time, it was an assemblage of kind of stuff from the scrapyard that I'd found, some chunks of metal and metal piping and stuff. So it had a pretty cool industrial sound to it, and that with the other instruments, the saxophone and the trumpet, we thought, wow, this is a really unique sound. We couldn't think of anybody else that had that sounded at all like this, really.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided to make the horns a permanent addition to what was a trio to start. So now we were a 5-piece. So saxophone was Andy Wise, and there's this kid named Alex Haird that played trumpet on that session, and I think he did 1 gig with us, maybe 2, and he was replaced with Bob Makowitz, who became our trumpet player, and he would do he was more of he would take the mic, but he wasn't a singer. He was more of a kind of rapper kind of.
Cool. Was this for Angst? Was that the album that you're talking about?
No, actually, Angst was done before my time. So Angst was Blake, Howard, Carlos Alonso, Ruben Huizinga. Shortly after that,
was it
Heroic
Heroic
the
Doses?
name of the so we did Heroic Doses, we did Clodhopper, but then there was oh my God, hold on a second, let me check my phone.
Is it Park Alien?
Park Alien. Yes,
Thank
you. This is a long time ago, right? This is a very long time ago. So anyway, it was Park Alien, and so yeah, again, that was the lineup, and it changed. I mean, we'd gone through some members and lineup changes, and some significant ones. We're back at it, so to speak. Carlos and I decided to do something after 2 decades away from each other, and me, and 15 years away from music at all. I didn't do anything, and I never thought I would get back into it. And he coaxed and prodded me and kind of got me back going. So there is another
Nice.
Product coming out soon. Actually, we're kind of mixing it now. Well, we are mixing it now, and we hope to get it out. It's difficult when it's not your full-time job. So we're, of course we have families, and we have, other things going on. So this is, we've been very, very committed to it, and it's sounding fantastic. It's different, of course, than the earlier stuff, but it's just taken a long time because we were having to kind of do this when we can. We're not locked in a studio and, hey, you got X amount of time to get this done. And so anyway, next question.
I was going to ask who your influences and musical heroes are growing up.
Uh, well, I have many. There's the obvious as a Canadian drummer, a young, teenage Canadian drummer coming up and having, Neil Peart was everybody's
Yeah.
hero,
Yeah.
certain drummers. Um, John Bonham, of course. All the big guys, the Keith Moons and the Stuart Copeland and all those guys. But I also really like the guys that really were creating a really unique sound to themselves, and they weren't necessarily like the kind of guys like the Bill Bruford's. He was a drummer for Yes, King Crimson, Terry Bozzio. Pretty much anybody that went through Frank Zappa's camp, were heroes of mine because they had pushed the craft so far and they'd set the bar so high.
Mm.
So technically it was something to really strive towards, and back then again, it was just sort of learning from listening to records, and there really wasn't much else, unlike the dearth of information that's available today with videos. And I mean, people send me clips of 9-year-old kids now that just blow circles around.
Yeah.
Well, as I just mentioned, technically, it's mind-boggling how,
Yeah.
But again, I think it's just kind of growing up with just having the availability of that kind of learning and YouTube. You want to figure something out, just go to YouTube and, oh, that's how he did it, where it used to be you just, kind of wrapping your head around a record and trying to figure it out. So it was different. So those were my heroes. I think guys that kind of drummers that pushed the craft of the technical aspect of it, but also creating their own unique sound. And that to me is even more important. And I think that had more of an influence on me. I mean, if you can see behind me right now, I don't know if you can see all of that.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I've got like a laboratory of just sonic things that I can bang on. I've got gongs and pieces of metal and like a variety of surfaces and textures to hit that, just to kind of let's try and create something a little bit unique here. And so I've always personally strived for that, and I think that the band did as well. I mean, we really, when we got together, it was to try and create something that was different in our own sort of sonic stamp. And I mean, that worked for us, but it also worked against us because we didn't fit. We had a hard time getting on the radio.
Yeah, right. Because it's a little different.
Yeah, and we had guys that, some radio programmers that really love the band. I mean, it just said, I've got your CD in my car. It's on, like it's I play it all the time, and I love it, but I can't play it on a radio station.
Yeah.
There was we had done a contest right when when I first joined the band, and we did a contest for 97.7, I think, and it was like their new band or new artist. And we went down, and it was literally a battle of the bands. And I remember one of the judges was Kim Mitchell, Steve Anthony, I think, and some of those guys from back at that time, and they were the judges, and the prize was you got your song added to the to 97.7's playlist. And so anyway, we ended up winning it. And then I guess I don't know who was ever in control of the thing, said, well, we have a policy where we don't play horn bands. Like, I guess this,
Serious?
like, we don't play Chicago, and
What an
or
odd policy.
fire, or
I know.
I didn't really get that. And then, so they didn't add our song, which I think it might have even been Heroic Doses, which did get some radio play. Certainly it was on, CFNY, I guess it was called at the time. And stations across the country, but that particular station just had this weird policy. We don't play horn bands, sorry. So even though we won their contest, the prize was get an ad to the place that we did. That didn't happen. So they just said, sorry, we can't add your song. We're like, okay. So there's an example of our sound that we had, carved out to try and sound unique and stand out. Well, we just got a lot of, radio people and labels, and we don't really know where you fit. Doesn't with the new Pearl Jam and the new, where are you guy? So
Yeah,
it was a bit frustrating because at that time you had to have radio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there weren't many other ways of working this music other than touring, and certainly being on radio helped you.
How do you fill up the venue
Mhm.
with the radio?
Exactly. I mean, now there's a myriad of ways, and certainly going back to YouTube, I mean, it's just if we had that back then, I mean, we would have been able to, probably take this a little farther.
Yeah.
I do have to ask, because not only did you guys have a very unique sound, and I'm hoping to talk about it, but you guys also had like a very unique style of making videos. So the sound was really cool, but then the singles would also be accompanied by like the video for Pistons, for example, had kind of like a claymation stop motion thing happening.
Mm-hmm.
So was that something that you guys did? You're like, well, it's a little different sounding, we're going to look a little different too. Was there pushback on that from labels?
Well, there were people that wrote treatments for the videos, and I think that maybe some of those for somebody that's writing for that particular song, they might have thought, okay, well, this music sounds kind of unique, so let's try and maybe take a different approach to this treatment. So we would then, we were presented with a few different treatments, and then we would kind of go over them and pick what we like. But there was a record label involved at the time, and they have say in it as well. And I think certainly that particular one wasn't one of our ideas. I think that was presented to us, and we thought,
Okay,
that's a really cool idea. Yeah, let's go with that.
oh, that's interesting. Okay, cool.
And again, I'm going back 25 years, right? So it's all a little hazy and a little foggy. So a lot of these details could be a little off. So
The whole point of this show is to refresh your memory.
yeah.
Go back to the old days.
Yeah, you think that I lived that. Of course, I'm gonna remember all these details, and then I can't even remember the name of the bloody EP that we did, Park Alien. Yeah. So.
Can you tell us what a Chapman stick is? You mentioned it earlier, like and I know it's not unique to you guys, but like what it is and how often do you see other people using it?
The Chapman stick it looks like a plank of wood. I think it has 10 strings, if I'm not mistaken. And the first time we had seen that, Carlos was playing it when I joined the band, but I, of course, had seen that before in King Crimson, where sort of the repackaged King Crimson that came out in 1980, I think. The stick was a guy by the name of Tony Levin, who's one of the masters of low-end instruments, bass player, but one of those A-list session guys, but then did this whole other progressive thing with King Crimson, and he kind of brought the Chapman stick to certainly popularize it. I don't really know many people that were playing it before him. Mm-hmm. And even since there's some guys, but it definitely is a fringy, eclectic instrument. You do see it more in the progressive world. Peter Gabriel used it. So Tony Levin played on most of the Gabriel records. So there's some stick on on some of those records.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was another thing that kind of interested me in the band was when I first showed up for the audition, and I saw that instrument. I saw Carlos playing that instrument, and I immediately just, oh, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they said, they were just throwing around some ideas for some songs that they had, and then they said, this King Crimson song called Red, and a big progressive rock guy from back in the day, and of course I knew that song well, and just kind of, I think once we got through that, it was like, okay, this is the lineup. This is going to work. Felt good. It sounded good. And yeah, I don't think there was really any. It wasn't like, okay, well, we'll call you and let you know we got a couple more guys coming in.
Yeah.
It was sort of like, okay, you're our drummer. Okay.
This clicks.
Yeah, it did. It worked from the get-go.
You think that unique instrumentation, then, like everybody kind of being on board with that, was kind of like what solidified the group? Everyone's like, we're going to do something really creative and different, and we got this cool sound. Let's make some happen.
I think so, and it wasn't necessarily even a conscious thing. It was just sort of one of the good things about that band was, although there were two primary songwriters, which was Carlos and Ruben. It wasn't really a band about songs and singles, and it was more of I think our stuff, again, it wasn't about one song on the record or whatever was on the radio. It was, you could listen to it from start to finish, and it was a bit of a journey, and it kind of there were a lot of different elements and influences on that, on all of the stuff that we did. There's some really heavy stuff, some hard rock stuff. There's slightly some jazz stuff on there. And so again, that was another thing that really interested me in the band was everybody was open to everybody else's influences. Ruben was a big Black Sabbath guy and Beatles guy and a Led Zeppelin guy, and Carlos was more of a prog guy, progressive rock guy, and Andy was more of a he liked jazz, and he liked his favorite band was Steely Dan, so had all different, from Steely Dan to Black Sabbath to, King Crimson to, and everything was, sort of thrown into a blender, and we'd somehow, just put it all together. And, there's some people out there that really, really liked the band and liked what we were doing. So that shows that it kind of worked,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, since Glueleg's span was pretty much the entire 90s, how did it change for you sonically from the beginning to the end of the 90s? Did you notice there was any shift in your sound?
Yes, I think that's a very good question. It's funny because it started off, and we literally would do pretty much whatever we wanted, and we would almost stay away from what was popular. Mm-hmm. And then I did see, and I think that we probably did this consciously when, after Heroic Doses and we did Pistons, we were thinking more about getting on the radio. There was a little bit less horns. We brought in some keyboards just to kind of enhance the sound. And I think it was a little more song based, some of the stuff like that from that time. And that was because we were, we were having a little bit of a more exposure. We were touring with, the big bands at the time. Our Lady of Peace would take us out, or the Tea Party would take us out, or Mother Earth would take us out, and so we would do these national tours, and we're flirting with radio and getting more video play, that sort of thing. So I do think that we could have gone the other way. We could have gone more a left turn from heroic doses, but I think we went just straightened it out a little bit, because we realized that we were playing, we were part of the game.
Yeah.
And so there is, I wouldn't say we, really just ditched where we were coming from. And because even on Pistons, there's still a lot of Glueleg elements on that, but I do see a slightly not as out there as heroic doses was before. So some people, their favorite record is heroic doses, and then other people it's like Pistons, but for a lot of people that's when they first found the band, from Pistons, and so they kind of prefer that.
And they progress with you as well, right?
Yeah, and then after Pistons, that was it. We didn't do anything after that.
What was your favorite album out of those that you released in that decade? Your personal favorite?
I like, to be honest, I like all of them, even the EP, Park Alien, the EP that we did. That's tough. Between Pistons and heroic doses, there's elements of both I really like. I think maybe heroic doses was pushing the envelope a little bit more, and I like that. So, but then with Pistons, there was a little bit more success. There was bigger shows, and we were headlining more, and more people knew who we were. So that there was that too. So, but musically, again, I like them both, but I might give a slight edge to heroic doses.
There.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Dope Nostalgia listeners, I love you, and I thank you so much for being a part of this show and its success over the last 2 years. We have what's called Patreon for those who want to support the show financially. For as little as $1 a month, you can become a subscriber and get bonus content, early podcast release, all kinds of cool behind-the-scenes stuff, and more. There's different tiers of membership starting at only $1 a month. And we even have some special merch for you guys who are in it for the long run. So please, join our Patreon. It's at www.patreon.com/dope nostalgia.
It's a conspiracy.
It's a Conspiracy is a proud member of the Alberta Podcast Network and happily powered by ATB.
We are a bi-weekly podcast that aims to discuss selected conspiracy theories, alternative accounts, legends, myths, and more without coloring the topic with our conversation, until the very end of the episode.
We also feature beer reviews, lame jokes, bad puns, far too many 80s movies references, geek culture, and general nerdery.
Our real aim is for fun, inclusive content that doesn't take itself too seriously.
You don't have to be blisteringly paranoid of mind control to enjoy a chin wag with your old pals, Greg, Charlie, Andrew, the Irish Madman, and our podcast puppies, Kylo and Ren.
It's a Conspiracy is a proud member of the Alberta Podcast Network powered by ATB.
It's still kicking. Big shiny tunes too. Might as well be walking on the sun. 'Cause track for track, no other CD touches it. I want something. Got yours yet? Much Music's Big Shiny Tunes too. 17 incredible tracks. Get it.
Speaking of Edge, can you tell me how the Edge Fest thing happened to come about?
How we got on the Edge Fest?
Yeah, like the stories are it seems like you guys were like really involved. That was a huge festival, especially out here in Alberta. It was one of the first times that like these like huge Canadian bands were on tour together. It was really exciting as a fan, and just a huge event.
Yeah, I think we might have done a couple of those Edge Fests. We did. Yeah. So anyway, we had an album that was out at the time and it, we were kind of getting noticed, and so they were putting this tour together. And do you remember who was headlining that? Was that Our Lady Peace? And
I think it was I'm Mother Earth, Our Lady Peace, and it might have been the Tea Party. I feel like the three of them kind of.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Maybe a Econoline Crush.
I remember doing one, and Hole was on it, and Silverchair. No, I'm sorry. That I was in Edwin. That was when I was in Edwin at the time. Okay, so this is the Glueleg Edge Fest that we did. Yeah, we just, we had an agent that was, working with us at the time, and this, we had a really, scrappy manager that, probably fought for us to get on that, and we did. And certainly we had the support of the headlining bands, because they were, we were friends with them, and we were opening up for them. And it wasn't like we were sort of pushed on them. It was, we want these guys to come out with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Our Lady Peace, Jeremy Taggart, he was over here, well, a little while ago, and played on one of the tracks on the new record. So it's like a double drum thing, him and I going. So we've, although I hadn't seen him for years and years and years, it was like he came over and we just fell right back into kind of, like the old days.
Nice.
So those guys would say, yeah, we would like Glueleg to come out with us on this, or I don't think it was a tough sell. So anyway, that was great. A great tour, great exposure for us, and lots of, the crowds were huge, and we weren't necessarily used to that. That was a good time.
Is that where the collaboration with Edwin began to take place? Like we got on an opening slot for I'm Mother Earth, or they saw us somewhere. We were playing somewhere in Toronto, and I remember that they told their manager, hey, we know you're looking for new acts. You got to check out this Glueleg band. And this was Jag and Christian and Mother Earth brothers, and I guess Bruce and Ed as well. And so of course their manager came down and saw us. We were playing shortly after that, and he immediately, was like, wow, you guys are, I love it. Can I, I want to be your manager. So we didn't have one at the time, and he had I'm Mother Earth, and so it was a good fit. So from there we ended up again doing a lot of shows with those guys, and when they split, Ed was putting together a band, and he had offered the guitar slot to Ruben, and we from Glueleg. We were kind of, I guess, spinning our wheels a little bit. We weren't really sure what was happening, and everything had really slowed down. And this was a pretty good gig. Ed had a lot of label support behind him, and there was going to be some big tours, and so then I kind of got brought into the fold, and became the drummer. So I did a couple of years with Ed, his first record, the first series of tours that he did for his first record. So that's kind of how that happened, and sadly, in a way, it was the end of Glueleg. So again, we were kind of wondering what was next, and again, things had really kind of, just sort of died down, and we were like, okay, are we doing a record, or what are we doing? We actually did record a record. It's never been released. Oh, really? Wow.
I don't know if it ever will. Yeah, it's been sitting in the band, and it was produced by Matt DiMatteo, who did Big Wreck, and Ed. He did Edwin's record.
Yeah, cool.
And, it's killer. It's really good. I just don't think it's ever going to be released because everybody can't sort of agree on releasing it. You know?
Oh man.
So maybe one day it'll see the light of day. I don't know. So that was one of the reasons why Carlos and I even decided to, although he wasn't even part of that record. He just kept kind of calling me up, and he had me play on his solo record that he did, and it's like I didn't have anything. Like he's just like, listen, I just want you to play something on the record. And I said, I don't have any recording equipment. I have a drum set I haven't looked at in 15 years. And so anyway, I threw it out. He just said, you have a phone, right? Yeah, okay, just turn the phone on and just record. Like I need 30 seconds. And he ended up working that into one of his songs, and I realized that I really enjoyed it, and I thought, well, that was fun. I wonder if maybe we could just kind of just have another kick at the can just for fun, just to do a project, just sort of, not more than something to do, but certainly there was no illusions of grandeur or anything. It was just like, be a creative project with sort of no restrictions, and where we are now as musicians, even though I had stepped away for, again, like a decade and a half.
Yeah.
Just decided to commit to it, and then sat down, started playing, and the rust was just falling to the ground, and I realized that I could still do it, and I really liked the music that I was hearing, and this to me was, I would say it's the best thing I've ever done, and I think Carlos said that as well. As far as just a musical statement, we're pretty proud of what we've done. It's very different. It's very, although there are elements of Glueleg, it is not to the same. Like if you're looking for heroic doses,
right.
It's not that. It's not Pistons.
Yeah.
There's vocals on it, but there's no lyrics. Vocals are used as textures, almost like synths or orchestral stuff. So this is where we are 25 years later, and so it'll be interesting to hear how it's received by some of the older fans. I put up a post on our Facebook page, and because people were asking, well, who's in the band, and we're getting I think somebody put up a picture and it was just two of us, so they're like, wow, okay, who actually is from the whole band in this? And so it was, okay, let's just let everybody know kind of what's happening. And I said that it is just the two of us right now. We had reached out to some others, but people are busy, and with life and everything else, or just lack of interest. Because again, it was a commitment. It originally started off with Chowder, who was our bass player, who actually replaced Carlos. When Carlos left after Heroic Doses, we brought in Chowder, who played on the Pistons record. And so it was going to be this amazing, bass, thunderous bass with this Chapman stick, and a lot of synth action, and then my drum arsenal behind me. But then Chowder, I guess, just thought I can't commit to it, and that he just kind of decided he didn't want to do it. So it was just Carlos and I. Do we have should we call it Glueleg? It's kind of ballsy since it's just the two of us, but we thought we would, because more people would hear it, and there is a connection to the old.
Absolutely.
Right. And so anyway, I just post that, just saying this is what it is, and we know not everybody's fans from the old days are going to like this, but this is what it is, and we hope you do. And all the feedback was very positive, so that certainly made me feel a little better, because we were expecting that. Oh, come on, man, you can't call this Glueleg. Ruben's not in the band, and there's no horns. But so it was
Yeah.
a bit of a quandary. But anyway, we decided to just go with it.
If I may, I think the musical tastes of the players involved will kind of stick out. So like the first, I haven't heard the new album. I can't wait to hear it. What I'll do when I listen to it, I promise I'll send you a message and let you know my honest feeling on it. Like, and I can't wait to hear it. But when I was listening to Another Spin Around the Sun, and I swear, like stack of Bibles, I was hearing the first song was is called "And You," and I was like, I heard that and I was like, that sounds like Glueleg. And then I went and looked at it and I was like, this is the Glueleg guys. This is awesome. And there was it almost felt like some of that album was kind of like a sequel or a follow-up to Clodhopper, and it was like some musical ideas kind of got brought in that, because Edwin, there's a clear on that album, there's like the song like Alive, which feels like a very kind of, it almost feels like it belongs on another album. And the video as well. The video is like this like big production, kind of like a radio thing, and it, you know, a stadium kind of song. And a lot of that album though feels like a very kind of experimental.
Well, you're very
jazz and synth elements and stuff.
And that's you nailed it, because Ruben had written a bunch of stuff on Another Spin Around the Sun. So Ruben was like one of the primary writers in Glueleg.
Yeah.
So he ended up being brought over to Ed's band as the musical director of the band, but also for some of his songs. They're actually, what are they? There's a couple of songs, 2 or 3 songs on that record that were on our Glueleg record that never got released.
Really?
That ended up being on Ed's record. Yeah.
Oh.
So you nailed it.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Trippin' is another one. The song Trippin' totally sounds like a Glueleg song.
Yeah,
like,
that
just
was,
sounds like
that was one of them. Again, I'm not sure what Ruben had written, but there's a song in there called I think it was Shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
Take Me Anywhere was another one off of that Glueleg record. And I think there was another. Oh yeah, I never thought we'd be talking about Edwin's record. I would have kind of
sorry the focus is on you guys, but it's just
yeah, actually this was talked about before Ed went out and did Ed. Our manager was pushing for Ed to be the singer of Glueleg, but not Glueleg.
Did you play the drums on And You by chance?
I didn't. I should have. I didn't though.
You didn't?
But it
Okay.
sounds like something I would play.
Mm-hmm. It absolutely sounds like
and I think that was my favorite track off the record to perform live.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a lot of that was recorded even before. They had a great drummer on that, a guy by the name of Stefan Sesniak, who did a lot of the drumming on that record. I kind of came in later.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's interesting how you picked that out. It's good.
Got some more surprises, win more stellar prizes, glittering suicide is to liven up the slices. Enough to burn your eyes out, plenty little seismic tremor, blame it on inconsistent weather, broken coffee tables with some little vials of wonderfulness, split on shiny leather. She knows, but she's not telling anyone.
You guys on your new album here, are you thinking about a tour? Are you thinking about like just kind of see how it goes, or some gigs around Toronto?
I don't think so. I don't think there'll be any tours. No tours. I don't even know if there'll be a show. The first thing we would have to do is figure out how we would pull it off. We would need some other musicians along with us to, we'd have to kind of put together a band because it is certainly drumming wise, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of ground to cover. And synth wise, we've had a bunch of like guests on this record. So after Edwin, I went and played with Saga. I don't know if you guys
Heard of Saga?
Yeah.
know Saga. Yeah. So I played with them. So for a couple of years in the early 2000s, just before I hung up my stick bag. And so anyway, Jim Gilmore, the keyboard player from Saga, he's one of the elite synth players in the world. He's on a few tracks on this record, and we were actually joking around about doing another project after this, an EP called Gluemore. Glue. So anyway, and that would be just a really sort of extreme outside art project, avant-garde art project. We'll just throw stuff around a room and hear what happens. So anyway, so Jim's on it. You remember a band called Sully?
No.
From the days, Sully. Yeah. So Becky Gainsforth from she was the singer in Sully. They're a great band. I didn't know them at the time, but I'm going back now. They were signed to Arts and Crafts, and they had kind of a lot going on, and it's the same story, right? Like most bands, everything just kind of falls apart and you move on. But so she's done some vocals. She sort of has this Cocteau Twins, Dead Can Dance vibe
Nice.
to her vocals. So yeah, we've brought some of that in. Jeremy Taggart, of course, playing on the record. So yeah, it'd be interesting if we could put together a show and do this record. Then I don't know how we would do the old stuff. So it'd be kind of, we haven't even gone there or really thought about that.
Right. Well, I can't wait to hear it, man. I'm excited. This sounds awesome.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you want a track to play? Yeah.
100%.
So, okay, so
Yeah.
I'll email you a couple of tracks.
Before we wrap things up, I'm just going to ask you about being a Canadian, of course, and a Canadian band. Did you ever get a chance for other countries to embrace Glueleg? Do you ever hear from like fans in like Japan or somewhere else around the world?
Yes.
Cool.
We have actually. We had and I wish I could track her down. There was a woman by the name of, I think her name was Ayumi, and she was Japanese, and she used to follow us around, like come out to all of our shows. It was far. Like she would drive far to come see us. And I don't know how many times she'd seen us, but she was like a super fan, and she'd usually be by herself. And I remember she would buy up all of our merch and she would send it back to her friends in Japan.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, and every now and then, you get some, somebody sent me a picture of a record shop in Czechoslovakia, and our CD was in the bargain bin, that kind of stuff. So, I mean, yes, it is out there, but certainly we're Canadian, but we never really got out of Canada. We did a few dates in the States. I remember we did a showcase at CBGB.
Wow.
In New York City, and there was, I think there was one person there that was a friend and staff, and that was it. But
Sounds like a lot of my
we
old
played
gigs.
CBGB, which was pretty cool.
That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah, and Chicago and some of a lot of the border towns, but yeah, sadly we just didn't. I think all that was coming, and then it just kind of, again, like a lot of bands, it just imploded, and it just didn't happen. And we didn't have a lot of support from, I guess, the Canadian industry, the Canadian music industry. Again, we're hard to pigeonhole, and a lot of them, were fans of the band.
Yeah.
So anyway.
So much respect for the music out there from fellow musicians and fans, but it's like, yeah, it's like you have to fit into one of these categories to be promoted. It's sad.
Yeah, you always do. I remember our manager at the time, Bob Latella, kept saying, you guys should, your best move would be to move to New York. Just start over down there, just grind it out down there. Like, because who knows where it could have gone, that's, you've got bands like Tool, and imagine they were pretty hard to kind of, pigeonhole, and they certainly broke through, and man, they're still going, so it could have happened. It's just, I think that it was a bit limited being, Canada is great a place to live as it is. It wasn't, and it had a vibrant music scene back then. I don't really know much about it now. Who's doing what now? I don't really, I'm not in the scene, so I don't really follow, but it was a vibrant, thriving scene. We had our own star bands that, but like, a band like the Tragically Hip, they sell at every arena in the country. And then you could go see them play at, 200 seater south of the border with room to spare, it's, so yeah, it's tough business.
Yeah. Well, man, I'm such a fan of Clodhopper in particular, but the whole career, it's just, you guys are great. And I listen to it regularly, and I can't wait to hear the new stuff. So, just awesome. And yeah, you got a lot of fans across the country. Like,
it's great to hear, man. Yeah, it's amazing that people still remember the band, because we were just like that, right? A little blip. But I guess we did touch some, so again, you asked me earlier who some of my heroes are, musical heroes are. Bill Bruford was one, and he there's a great quote. He said, you can consider yourself an artist or a musician, I think it was musician, when you've stirred someone's soul. And I think that we did that for, because some people still to this day, like yourself, say, big fan of the band. I was listening to you the other day, man. Still holds up, sounds great, love it. So yeah, certainly we're proud of what we did. Wish there's, kind of went on a little longer.
But it was fun while it lasted, right? I hope.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that we got this time to appreciate you and your music, and make sure that we get this episode out to everybody so they get a chance to hear the new stuff too. So thanks for all your time today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Yeah, exciting. So yeah, I'll send you some of the new material.
Awesome.
That's
Can't wait to hear it.
All right.
Hey kids, put down that Tamagotchi and listen for a second. You can follow us on Twitter at NostalgiaDope, Instagram at dope_nostalgia. Visit our website at www.dopenostalgia.com or pick up the phone and call us at 780-851-8785.
This podcast is licensed by